Hello everyone, welcome back. This episode of Bitcoin Trade is a chart analysis. Um, Not too much on news per se. What you're looking at here, and I'll go over a few charts here. Um, Basically, this is a Bitfinex chart, and I'm showing you on an hourly, and I'm gonna go over some of the things that has happened. Let me see here. Okay. So one of the things that I did here is, um, if you see my previous episode, you'll notice that some of the chart analysis for different exchanges are different. And so what I'm doing is I'm going back to comparing all the other exchanges against each other on an hourly basis and see what kind of results or conclusions or analysis I can come up with. And so what I did was, in this particular case, I'll try to scroll back here and see the different things here. So I made some vertical lines here, as you can see from here, and this is not a vertical line. This is just my crosshairs. Oop. If I can get that going. Oh, my mouse doesn't seem to work for some reason now. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Okay. So anyways, that's what it looks like from a distance, and you can see the previous pricing and how it reacts and everything. And anyways, on the short term, I wanted to look at this, and one of the things that I've been doing, and this is again hourly on Bitfinex, that is current price. So we'll just go into the normal view that I usually do, and it's going down, of course, right now. So one of the things that I did here, and let me remove all these lines, and I'll go into the analysis that I have for it. As you see, I'm removing the lines here. And then I'm going to move this all the way to the lowest point before it started going up. Now, as you see here on this screen, you know, it looks pretty, it looks innocent. And when I first started doing this, I mentioned about the little breakout here, which this is right here on hourly. And then I noticed the pattern here. A little line starting to form here after a couple times like this, and it's just, you know, a line. And that's one of the first thing I did. So one of the first thing I did is I said, well, there seems like to be a little trend line here, or a resistance line. And at first it was something like this. First I want to see what this was. At first I drew it like this, okay? And as you can see, when it was coming here, and if you could just ignore this part here, because at the time this is all I saw at the time. So the lowest before it went up, and then it started going down, and so it really held up right around here, and it started breaking out right here, but not quite. And the thing about when you do short-term lines is that they're constantly changing, and so that was my first kind of excuse me here, I'll get you a better view here. So that was my first look at whether this would break out or not. And at the same time this was breaking out, or this was starting to break out, I was looking at the Chinese exchange. Anyways, let me see where I eventually ended up doing here. Okay, right about here. Excuse me, let me see if I can get that to focus. Here we go. So right about, oh gosh, it moved on me. Right about here, after it hit up, if you can see that, after it hit up, and then it failed to break through and went down, and I had a feeling it wouldn't break through, and I'll tell you why. Okay, anyways, the line eventually comes out to be topping right here, and then this kind of made a trend line like this, in which you can see it did kind of follow that, especially here at the end, and then finally kind of broke out. And I'm looking for something to push upwards, which was right about there. Okay, so there is a little breakout, but there was a chance right about here. I didn't take it. I did sell right about here just to make a little bit of gain around here in these lower parts. And so, anyways, so eventually that's kind of what happened there. All right. And then now when I go to the Chinese exchange, let's see if it will load up. My gosh, it's taking a long time. Okay, there we go. I did the same thing, except let me. Gosh, so slow today. All right. So eventually I did the same thing, except that. Okay. Except, and I did the same thing as I just got it. Will this thing move on me? No? Oh, okay, there it is. So I just kind of took it, and I want to see how it, okay, anyway, that's good enough for me. Oh, that's too much. Nope. When you got the empty space, you could put a line anywhere, apparently. Okay, there it is. So that's the kind of low before it started going up and just hitting up here. And so on the Chinese exchange on Hobu, which is right this right here, and the reason I use Hobu is because it's just right there and it's easy to look at. I mean, you can use any Chinese exchange from where it says markets here, and you got there's gosh, they've changed a little bit, but they're still there. Anyways, there's Hobu, OKCoin, there's Bitcoin China. Anyways, let me go back to here and show you what I'm talking about. So when I did this on this one, let me see, where was the highest point? All right, the highest point was right here, right? So by the time I drew this line out, it kind of came out to be here, and that's all I had to draw. I didn't have to draw another line right about here, because if you look at this, you'll see that the original line that I drew up was saying this is starting to break out. And there was some indication, but I knew it wouldn't really break out because as I was looking at the other exchange, especially this one, where I see this in 2 points, the two highest points from here to here, you'll see that the price, and I was a little surprised how much dramatically lower this downturn here was more than on Bitstamp. You see the down right here specific. I think right around here, one of these. I think it was this one. It's not as much lower, so I was a little surprised by that. And there's that slight difference. So by the time I was looking at it, I was just, I was kind of seeing about this far into it, and I wanted to see how it played out, and that's why I moved this whole thing over. And same thing here, except the 2 points were here to here, which made this line. And I noticed when it was moving up, it stopped at that line. So I kind of said, well, I'll take a chance. I'll sell a very small fractional amount of Bitcoin and see if I'm right. So I kind of sold up here and then bought in back a little bit lower as it got closer to here. So I had a little limit order right around here, and it did hit. And then what I did is I just kind of bought in. I didn't have any limit order or anything. I just kind of bought in when I thought it was going to be closer to breaking out. It did go to a lower price, and then I figured give it another chance, buy in back here, basically making a gain in Bitcoins as the price went down, and then it started moving up and out. And now this time I see it crossing over, the two lines crossing over. It's also breaking out of this for sure because there's nothing for me to put on here except another line, which you may have to put another line here. You put another line here to this top now, and then this top will start making a lot more sense. And then you put a top here, but it's so close, it's already kind of broken out that it just every time you put a new line to the next high and it's still showing a breakout, then you got to put another line here just to show this line of resistance. It's kind of telling you that every time you got to make a new line to make sense of this, that the price is moving out of this, breaking out of this. It's typically a good sign that the trend is going up, I should say. And so based on that, you shouldn't really put a line up here. You should put a line really up to the next high before this, because every time you put a line up to the most recent place, it's always going to be below this line, so you're always under resistance. But anyways, if you want to make another line, you can. I would wait for this to either move up forward or but before you do that, I mean, let me see here, let me back up. Let me put the new lines in where it should be for you to observe and analyze. Let's see if I can, there it is. Okay, so that's the line you should really be I think you should be looking at. And what you'll see here is that it is kind of trending out of that resistance line. And you can kind of see it, you can barely see it actually. It's the two lines have crossed over, and it also shows that, it really shows that here, as you can see. Let me see here. Well, anyway, there you go. So you see that, and it's really crossing over. And so based on that and some other things as well, the other thing I looked at was oh yeah, local Bitcoins, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so alright, now refresh. Okay, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to refresh this. Alright, so there we go. 75 sellers. Okay, so basically, let me go back here. Okay, a little time travel we're going to do. So right around here, before the price really started breaking out, especially right around this, I drew a little small line from here to see if there would be a line, and there was a little line going like this, and it broke out right before, during that time frame, right around here. I went to go get some more Bitcoins, go buy some more Bitcoins, right? And lo and behold, I had some of my miners telling me they can't sell me any Bitcoins. And I was like, what? And whatever reasons they gave me, they're down, they're upgrading, so on bottom all, whatever the reason, I just couldn't get any. And I was like, wow. Well, let me see. I gotta make all my calls here, and so make a few calls. Call meaning literally I just reach out and try to make contact with other people, but a call in a way that I guess in trading terms, you have a call and a put. Well, this is a different kind of call. It's called to get Bitcoins, and I found it very difficult to find a caller. And so, or make a call, I should say. Anyways, it was getting more difficult to get Bitcoins for some reason, and I knew then that around this time right here, there might be a good chance that the price would go up, and not like up like what you've been used to, like these small little upwards movement, $2 or $3, but maybe a little bit more. And it did move up about $8 to $10 depending where you were. The Chinese exchange, excuse me, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. The Chinese exchange was up about $5 from Bitfinex. Bitfinex and Bitstamp were about the same. Bitsy was only down by $2 from these two exchanges. So I did mention, by looking at the Chinese exchange, they were pulling up higher, that might be an indication, and so it did move up. And of course, it did retrace back 50% from this low to here. And so, anyways, my point is, around this time, the amount of people on local Bitcoins, I know it doesn't really matter at night or in the morning, but usually, when the trading day is over, the 75 goes back to around 50, maybe 40. But what I saw was 30. And either people were not advertising or they didn't have any Bitcoins to advertise. And so whenever you see a number go below 40 or down to the 30s, especially when they're not trading during after hours, some people might have turned off their ads because they don't want to be bothered or the coin's locked. But usually that's unusual, and I've noticed every time the amount of people who are listing that is in the 30s, the number 30 amount of people, the price the next day or maybe even that night tends to go up. And then now 75 is a lot, and that's usually an indication that price might go down. Of course, a lot of people may have finally gotten their Bitcoins now. They probably got them at a higher price, and now the price has kind of gone down. It's kind of jumped up a little, or it looks like it's breaking out, as you can see from here. But you see the selling kind of happening now. So it's kind of hard to say what exactly is happening, but I think it is kind of a breakout because it is trending up. And one of the indicators that I'm looking at for a sell-off or just a profit taking is to look at how many people right now are trying to sell. That's a lot. And not only that, but if you look at the amount, you don't really see a lot of these people are selling over 1,000 at a time. And this is on I'm not logged in or anything, so this is kind of open to anybody to look at. And usually these prices are for people who basically have no feedback whatsoever, usually. So when you look at these prices, they're advertising to people who have no long history of trading on local Bitcoins. And they're trying to sell at 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. And as you scroll down, I mean, you're seeing very large numbers, 1,000, 2,000, almost 3,000 there. Let me see if I can find the one that there's 5,000. There's one, there it is. There's one that's at almost 9,000. And so, looking at that, I guess you can tell that some people have probably gotten their Bitcoins at a higher price, and then the price is kind of bumped up a little bit because it's come down. It's around the higher price around these areas right here, and it's kind of price has gone down a little bit now. It's gone back up. You can see they're very anxious to sell. What does that mean for you? Well, if you just analyze the charts and compare different charts on top of that, and then look at the peer-to-peer market, which if you look at that and then look at who's selling and then how much people are selling for, and at what price, you kind of get an idea that there's probably a lot of people desperate to sell. Whether they're just trying to, again, just turn a dollar or whatever they're doing. So that kind of did help me because one of the things I did do, I did take advantage of this, is you can arbitrage, knowing that you've hit the top. So not only can you arbitrage, for example, I'll just, like, you can see the price difference between this if you convert Chinese money to US dollar. The only problem with converting the Chinese money, which is this is equivalent to US dollar, is that you're still floating. So don't think that just because you cash out in Chinese money that it doesn't reflect on US dollar prices. It does, but it doesn't float that much. The thing about Chinese money is that it's relatively flat for the most part. So if you ever looked at, let me see here. I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna go look it up. So if you could just bear with me just a little bit. See if I can look it up. Just looking up on my smartphone, so. Okay, so anyways, let me show you here on this here. So as you can see on this, it's the price versus one. It's like 16 cents. It tells you the rate amount right here, and then as you look, it's relatively very stable until it dropped, and that was done by the Chinese government, not anybody who. It's not really floating, not a true floating price. So you have to, excuse me. Anyways, if you see this graph, you'll see that it's straight, then it drops here, and then it's slightly floating. But if you look at some of the other, like let's pick the euro. What is 1 euro? If you look at this, you'll see how much it floats. It floats quite a bit more than a manipulated currency like the Chinese money, right? Look at it; it's just flat, and then it kind of floats up and down. Not really that much, but it floats. So it's not that bad, I guess. But anyways, if you look here, and oh, sorry. Gosh, sorry if this is going to be a little bit longer than usual. But if you look here, you could have taken if you had, an account over here at some of the Chinese exchanges, and some of these, I think all of these major Chinese exchanges, they have no commission on trading, and so you can take advantage of that. So anyways, my point is that you can arbitrage, right? And so you're making a $3. It's not a big deal, but if you do it at the right time, you're arbitraging, and then if you are able to do a pretty good analysis here. Yeah, I'll do my original line that I saw. You could have made a good gain, I would say. It wouldn't have been big, but if you get an opportunity where you can take advantage of some knowledge and analysis and arbitrage. So you arbitrage $3. You sold, or I should say I sold, but you could have sold here. It was too late for me on this stuff here because I needed to look at something before I could do anything. But anyways, looking at this one, I realized this was very obvious here, that it would hit up, and it hit right up on this line, and I knew then that this is not a real breakout, because of looking at this chart and then looking at this chart, this kind of looked like it was going to be a breakout, but then of course it fell back down. And so I took advantage of that, and as this was hitting up, and it was what, 1574, something like that, 75, sold, and then I waited and bought. I could have waited a little bit longer, but I just figured might as well just put a limit order right around this bottom price to see if it comes back down, and it did. And so I did make a little gain, and then I readjusted my line. I really readjusted my line to do this. And so I was waiting for this. By the time it dropped back down here, I had a little bit of room here, as you could see. So I just kind of waited it out. I mainly watched, believe it or not, I was watching this exchange. And by the way, this is let me see. Oh gosh. Okay, this is Hobu, and that's the price. But I was mainly watching this, and it did go down, and I was watching right around here, as you can see right there, and then it just slightly broke out on the second green, like right here. When I was watching it, it slightly was breaking out, and I figured maybe right around here, because it looks like the best potential to move up. And one of the things, this is just an hourly, these are meant for very short-term trading, but they can help you into the long-term trades if you back out and you kind of see a trend here. But this is starting to cross over. It's really breaking out of this line here, if you can see that. And not only that, but it also worked out, and this is a Chinese exchange here, but it also worked out here, and it's really showing here on Bitfinex. I'll do one more on Bitstamp, because for some reason, and I'll show this here, that Bitstamp is now the leading US dollar exchange. Not sure what's happening, but something's happening. Anyways, it really shows here, and then this morning it really picked up in the price, and that's what leads me back to, I'm sorry if I'm going back and forth all over the place, that's what takes me back to this, because it was 9 o'clock morning around Central Time, and even then, anyways, oh, there we go. Even then, it was already at 65 or 68 or something like that. That was 9 in the morning. Usually it's about 50 people that have their Bitcoins. There was a lot of people who had Bitcoins. A lot of people were ready to start selling today as the price moved up in the morning. A couple things, they may have bought their Bitcoins in the morning. They already had Bitcoins, and they saw the price go up, and so they're really desperate to sell, trying to get their money back, or trying to make some money, you know, or no one's buying, or they've already bought all their Bitcoins, and they're just sitting there. People are just waiting, you know. People are waiting, kind of see what happens. And then another thing here is, let's see here. So there's a couple scenarios that could be happening. Now, when I see after that rise, I saw the price slowly go back down. There we go. Slowly go back down. And I think a lot of people are trying to sell quick as possible. But I think they're going to regret their selling, because I think there's a really good chance, and this is where I'm going to back out to a 12 hour. You can see that line doesn't mean anything really, it's just short term. That you'll see, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. Excuse me. Excuse me. That you'll see it. Well, first of all, it just kind of broke out here and just danced around for a while. I mean, I just really been anticipating for it to break out more than that. Been anticipating to go up for a while. Finally, really starts jumping right around here, and then you can see that it just jumps and then comes back, and then now it's floating and may bounce one more time. It may bounce several times because you know, when it starts slowly trending, I mean, they're small little waves, and then they become big waves, and then big waves going up and big waves going down, and then they start out small waves again, and they become big waves going up and big waves going down. And so anyways, on the 12 hour, it looks good that it's above the 10 period average. And then if I go back to a day, and this is all Bitfin, I'll get to Bitstamp eventually, you'll see that it's crossed over and it's really making a push up higher as well. And so these are all really, really good indicators. And so finally I'm going to get to Bitstamp. As far as news, I've been reading a lot of news lately. Right now I'm too busy to trade, but see, even on a daily, you know, you see that it's coming out really good. I'm gonna go back to a 3-day now and see how it looks. And the 3-day, let's just zoom in. Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, you're kind of seeing a little push for it to go up. As you can see, it's a little push. It pushed up, came back down. It's hitting up against this longer term average. So looks, if the trend continues up and is able to make it over this, you're looking at a very long-term trend here. The beginning of a long-term wave, the big wave, or a bigger wave, I should say. And so that's when you pull back this far, the waves really get big. And like I said, you know, they start out really small, and they start going like right here. You know, they start out really small. This is on a 3-day here. So if you look at it, wave, wave, and hopefully a larger wave. But again, the waves going down also intensifies as well, so you got to keep that in mind. So get a good perspective that this is a 3-day, and it's starting to, it may start to just pull up higher because all indicators kind of show that. On a daily, it's already done. On a 12 hour, you're kind of seeing it, especially on 12 hours. Really looks like it's bouncing off that 10 period. And then when you go back to the 1 hour, you know, when you really look at it, you could see, let's go in a chart analysis here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Bitstamp. Okay, so I'm going to do the Bitstamp chart analysis here. Bitstamp chart analysis seems to be kind of really spot on. See, it doesn't take much to make a line between these two tops. Okay, and then as you can see, this is where it moved up, and that's another thing I looked at. I looked at Bitstamp and noticed that it wasn't even going to touch this top. So on Bitfin, it kind of showed a little early, and then what I did is I waited it, and now it's starting to really show that break right around here. Now this is on hourly. You get a lot of false positives, false negatives, whatever you want to call them. But looking at overall between all the exchanges, they seem to indicate the same thing, that it's starting to wave up. The wave upwards is starting. It's a slow progress. You know, when it starts going down in price, you'll see the velocity of the movement really go down. The velocity of the price really go down, and then it'll just stop because the selling pressure can't. You know, you can't sell forever, and you definitely can't buy forever. So the pressure of it going down is only so much to bear, and then eventually just kind of levels off and goes up and down, kind of range in motion. But as you see the range in motion, the waves get bigger, both on a longer term, shorter term. You can start seeing the smaller waves grow into bigger waves, and you zoom out of that time frame, and then you'll see the beginning of a small wave, and then you know become a big wave, and you pull out of that and go to a longer time frame, and then you'll start seeing on a long time frame the beginning of a very long-term or start of a long-term trend. And you know, hopefully, if you had your bitcoins, or if you have bitcoins, or if you gained your bitcoin during, I would say, let's have a look here. Maybe 3-day. Let me get rid of that line here for you. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, there we go. S10 has the longest history here, so so the waves, you know, they get bigger. They intensify, and you can see the waves. I mean, they really intensify. And then as downward pressure pushes it down, they only go down so far. And if you look at it, if you step back and you put your perspective in this, you know, these are really almost, if you look at this and this movement, it's not quite the same, but I'm going to try to put a top on these here. Forget where they are on top. So if you look at these, this price here, where the top is hitting, it's higher than this. And then if you go to the bottom of this, it barely reaches the top of this. So what you're starting to see is a wave getting, I think anyway, waves are getting bigger and bigger and bigger here, and starting again. You'll slow progression of ranging waves, but it's starting to, which it looks like to me anyway, go back up. There's only so much selling pressure you can do. You know, we're miners who have bitcoins. I mean, if you just sell them out into the market, it's just going to drive the price down. And you know, if you keep doing that, essentially, you know, I guess you could say you're shooting yourself in the foot. So that's kind of what's, I think, going on. Is like the selling pressure may be alleviating. Also the halving coming up, so maybe people are just hoarding up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I do think this is the beginning, because I've been starting at around 350. 350 is when I've been starting to collect my gains in Bitcoin. So during this really narrow range of period, and if you think about it, it's $1 to $200 range. And so this narrow ranging period, I've been accumulating my Bitcoins, which does lead me to something I did read on Reddit. Someone posted how they saved enough for 40, I think it was 42 Bitcoins or something, and it's possible to do that if you trade enough and you keep your gains in Bitcoin, especially at these lower prices. Getting 42 Bitcoins is not impossible. It's definitely doable, and the more you trade, the more you gain. And so especially at lower prices, it's way easier to get more Bitcoins than at these higher prices, around here. So um, it's still not too late. I think it's going to be here for a while. It's going to range in here for a while. Slowly, it's going to make its way upwards. You have to catch the trend before it starts happening. That's my point, because when it starts happening, it's not really too late, but at the same time, you had all this time from here to here to accumulate your gains in Bitcoin, and that in itself causes shortage. All right, so that should help you out. Anyways, let me cut out here. Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment or a video response. Until next time, stay tuned. Bye.